Hello. Today I'm going to share my thoughts on letting go from a Gnostic perspective, but I also think this video can apply just to life. So if you don't know anything about Gnosticism, I wouldn't really worry too much about it. I'm going to start with this quote. Some of us think holding on makes us strong, but sometimes it is letting go. And that's from Hermann Hesse. A few days ago, some friends came here to visit to Mexico, and we took a day trip to Guanajuato. While we were there, we were walking around and I was just kind of thinking about my life a little bit. I hadn't seen my friends in a long time, and it was kind of strange to be with people that I know from a different place in this place. So I was definitely thinking about a lot of stuff. We were walking down this alley. A friend of mine wanted to get ice cream, and I just kind of turned, and there was this graffiti in English, just says letting go on the wall. And unfortunately my battery was pretty much dead on my phone because we had been walking around and stuff, doing things all day. So I couldn't take a picture, but it really hit me when I saw it because it was something I had been thinking about for a while. Letting go is maybe the hardest thing to do in life, perhaps. And I have yet to meet a person who has mastered it. Let's get into this a little bit. Let's talk about dissolving the false self. The ego, the constructed identity, is part of the illusion, the psychic self. Gnosticism divides the human into hylic, material, psychic, soul, mind, and pneumatic, spirit. Letting go is the death of the psychic illusions to let the pneuma awaken and remember its divine origin. A lot of times people talk about the tripartite division as people, the hylics being the material, psychic, soul or mind, pneumatic, spirit, and how those people kind of relate to those three things. But another thing to remember is that those three things are inside of us and they're kind of battling it out as we go through life. So how do we let go? In the pursuit of knowledge, every day something is added. In the pursuit of the Tao, every day something is dropped. Less and less is done until non-action is achieved. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. And that's from Lao Tzu, from the Tao Te Ching. What we need to do is let go of our inherited beliefs. We have many. And the idea of authority that isn't ours over our soul needs to be addressed. In my experience, the best way to do this is to withdraw. Kind of go on a retreat and assess your life, assess what you have inherited, from your culture, from your family, even from your past, and kind of, sort through it piece by piece. I think it really comes down to no clinging, to stop clinging to things. And letting go is dropping your attachment to thoughts, opinions, or even enlightenment, or especially enlightenment. People seem to think that enlightenment is this goal to reach. There's like striving for it. But that's the exact opposite of the process, I think. We don't go through life to hit some goal. We go through life to almost let go of it. The younger we are, I think the more we cling on to things. Cling on to people, cling on to our opinions, our worldviews. But as we get older, I think these things get challenged. You have a breakup or you lose someone, your worldview gets annihilated by something flipping, whether it's through politics or, you come across some new information and that just destroys what you thought before. If you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. And that's from the Gospel of Thomas. So letting go then becomes an act of trusting the inner spark rather than external doctrine. Trusting, I would kind of call it like your inner logos, this absolute truth that you have inside of you that you need to kind of follow. But in order to do that, we have to renounce the world. Here's another one from the Gospel of Thomas. Jesus said, "Whoever has found the world and become rich, let him renounce the world." So letting go here in this material world that we live in is liberation from the enchantment of matter, the seductiveness of matter, and our desires that are related to it. When we hold on to these things, that's what causes suffering. People have a hard time letting go of their suffering. Out of a fear of the unknown, they prefer suffering that is familiar. And that's from Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese monk. So we grasp everything. We grasp lovers tightly. We don't want to let them go. We cling to our families. We hold on to people that are long gone. We hold on to memories of them. And I'm not saying you can't have those things. I'm just saying that they're almost like a life raft, and we're just like hanging on for dear life for these things, especially with like the past and memories. The past doesn't exist anymore. The memories are not really real. They're only real in your head. We even cling to death. Just think about how much you think of death every day. We're constantly thinking about the future, what will happen, what won't happen, what we need, when we will go from this world. We have desires, plans, all these things that are constructs that we create in our head. Letting go involves accepting suffering as a signal that your spirit is not at home here. It reframes grief and loss as spiritual catalysts. Here are some questions to consider. What am I clinging to that keeps me in bondage? Be honest with yourself in this. Is it comfort? Is it control? An identity? A role that you're playing? Different people? Wealth or the desire for wealth? Outcomes? Fame? Things like that. It's hard to do things without expecting some kind of outcome, because why would you do them if you didn't? I don't think it's a bad thing to expect an outcome, but it's a bad thing to cling to the outcome, especially if you are clinging to some result that you think is going to happen. That's usually when it doesn't. It goes the opposite way in that case. So, thinking about this, is this thing, person, idea feeding my spirit or just my ego? If you want success in some endeavor, is it because you want to use that success in some way to help someone else or to achieve something? Or are you doing that success because you have some deficit in your ego and you need the validation and things? What fear arises when I imagine life without this attachment? So I think the best thing you can do is to name it. Is it fear of abandonment? Is it some kind of emptiness that you have, a void inside? Is it death of the false self, the identity you've created over the years that you're clinging to? I think I've made a lot of progress over the years, but obviously I still struggle with all this stuff like daily. And I think fear is maybe my hardest thing to grapple with. Maybe I think about how things are just not going to work out, or how I have to approach some things and they just aren't going the way I want them to go. I think this comes from my childhood a bit. I had a chaotic childhood. So deep down, maybe I'm yearning for some kind of stability. It's a fear that cripples me sometimes. And it's definitely something I've worked on over the years. I'm getting better. When you have this kind of abyss in front of you of unknown, and you just don't know what the universe is going to give you or take away, it's natural to have fear of that, I think. Just like it's natural to have fear of some wild animal. But in some ways, it's an irrational fear. You don't know what's going to happen. Maybe great things are going to happen. And you're just thinking that, everything's going to fall apart. Am I staying loyal to something that no longer serves truth? One lesson I've learned in life is that loyalty can be a kind of cage. You need to think about who or what benefits from your loyalty. I think a lot of people have kind of blind loyalty sometimes, especially in these codependent relationships and things. The person almost doesn't even deserve the loyalty, and people will give them it. Even like loyalty to famous people, this kind of irrational, I'm on this side, because either politics or, some other reason why a person likes this famous person. But who benefits from it? Do you? I've had lots of friends over my life, and some of them are still my friends, But I've had a few that were not. You know, I thought they were, but they're not. You know, did I benefit from that? I mean, maybe, depending on how you look at it. All in all, they got something more out of it than I did, I think. In fact, maybe I lost something from those relationships. Then you have to consider, is this loyalty serving your spiritual journey? Is it taking you where you want to go? What part of my identity is built on this attachment? And are you ready to lose it? Or is it who you think you must be? We all have different identities that we put on with different people, different kind of masks. And I think that's something over time we learn is a condition of our ego. We don't want there to be any friction or, you know, conflicting points of view. So we tend to adopt the personas of the people around us at the time that we're in those situations. But to gain a kind of authenticity, I think you have to not do that. It's almost subconscious, I think, but it's important to realize that the more authentic you are, the better you can go through life and serve people better. So if you're wearing these masks, I think it's best to try to drop them as much as you can. I know that's almost impossible because we are a multifaceted person. So, you know, if you like A, B, or C, and another person likes A, B, or C, you kind of have an affinity already. So that, you know, your mask gets kind of pushed in that direction. I think it's super important, having read a lot of the Stoic philosophers, to strive for authenticity in everything if you can. It's not always possible, but I think it's an ideal to try to go for. And it may cause you some problems in the short term, but in the long term, it will help you. You don't have to kind of hide, you know. Are these things keeping me asleep? So are these things distracting you from the deeper, painful work of waking up? And I think this is an ongoing process. If I look back at how asleep I was when I was 10, or even 20, or 30 years old, I didn't know anything at that time. And I still don't know that much for as long as I've been here. It's kind of like each day, it's like, you know, I only have a finite amount of time in the day, and I try to learn as much as I can, but like, I will never learn everything, obviously. You know, every day you have more wisdom than the day before, hopefully. Even the last 6 months have been pretty revelatory for me. So like, you never know when you're going to go through a big change. Who am I when I stop trying to fix, hold, control, or justify? Well, that's the real you. The ego is the one that's trying to hold on to everything and justify everything. That's what feeds the archons, if you want to look at it from the Gnostic perspective. It's this kind of fear, not just in your ego, but in the kind of larger world. You see this just looking at the news. There is so much fear generated all the time. I mean, if you really think about it, we're bombarded with fear 24/7. But if you can free yourself of this, or at least attempt to, this is the soul without care. It's light, not heavy. It's free, not bound. It's ready, not waiting. But that's all I got for this one. I don't know. It's just something that kind of hit me when I saw the graffiti, and I thought I would share it. If you have anything to add or anything you disagree with, you can comment below, and that's about it. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.